So this is going to be a lot of fun. Chad's the guy who literally takes care of all the back end of our podcast from the editing perspective. So his job to make sure we sound good, which means he's got a lot of fucking work cut out for him. And I was fascinated when I was on one of the other shows he does all the background work for. It's an amazing podcast. It was such a fun interview, and I was captivated by this idea of 8 seconds could change your life. So I asked Chad to jump on here with us and to walk us through this entire idea of where they came up with how 8 seconds can change your life and how people can implement it in their world. So Chad, welcome in, brother. Talk to us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about 8 seconds, and it was great having you on the show. So thanks for that as well.
Yeah, it was fun.
8 seconds is really an idea that Dr. Mitch told me about when we launched Truth Talks. The way he described it to me was there's 8 seconds in every conversation that has a chance to impact, change, or maybe even save a life. And at first, I didn't really understand that until we started doing some interviews. And I started realizing, holy shit, he's right. There's 8 seconds in every conversation, even if you're not engaged in the conversation, that somebody might say something that either in the moment or later on, you go back and you're like, wow, that was really profound, or I really connected with that. And so that's kind of where the concept came from. And, we've kind of used that hashtag in everything that we do, 8 seconds. I'm sure the
friends, the PBR loves everything about that.
Yeah, they're probably like, "What the hell are y'all talking about? Hey, this ain't no 8 seconds,
right?" Did you have to use that twang? I'm just asking.
Hey, you got to fit the role, buddy. You got to fill the role. So
I love this.
Have you actually ever heard a rodeo cowboy with a New York or Jersey accent?
So, yeah.
Good point.
There. Oh. Too funny. But I love this idea of 8 seconds can change your life. And, I think 8 seconds could potentially be just a frame of time. Because often, like me, I get ahas and like lickety split. Kevin, it may take him 4 years to get an aha, and he still is trying to figure out what he's supposed to learn from this damn thing. But I love this concept where 8 seconds can be a moment. I mean, it can put you in a lot of contexts, such as, maybe it's a car crash or something. You got split seconds to make choices, and lives may be in the balance to, getting down to the wire of signing a multi-million-dollar contract that could change the trajectory of your business. It's that final sign the dotted line type of moment. Is that where you guys are coming at from this, type whole idea?
Yeah, in essence, yes. It could be something that somebody says that they may not even realize is profound or life changing or whatever. But in the context of like SCN and growth mode and stuff, 8 seconds is, you could also think of it as like your elevator pitch or your how you present yourself to somebody in an introduction that they remember, right? They walk away and go, holy shit, I'm going to remember this person and what they said for this reason. So, but you're right. It's 8 seconds is sort of a standard of time that Mitch has created, but it could be 3 seconds. It could be 20 seconds, it could be whatever. So, but it's just easier to say 8 seconds.
What I think is really cool about this whole concept of, 8 seconds, you saying something that can change someone's world is most people will just look at the stuff they say. It's like, it's not that important, and no one, it doesn't matter, and I do that a ton. It's like, I look at when I'm going on stage or I'm going to be speaking somewhere, it's like, oh, how do I say something that's going to be just so meaningful and impactful? But and then I'll get up on stage and do the basic info, and I'll still have people come and say, oh, you said this thing, and it totally changed things for me. I was like, why aren't we doing that? And I'm like, wow, all right, so I didn't have to be as analytical about what I was saying as as I actually was. So it's really cool.
And I want to dive into that just a little bit so they understand what happened. So Kevin went up on a freaking stage and gave a presentation that he was actually a little worried about. He did not go in depth enough, that it was a little too basic in nature. And after he came off stage, a gal walked up to him and said, "Hey, thank you. I've already sent this back to my team." So in 8 seconds, if you will, she changed how he completely thought about how he did on that stage.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, but I think everyone does that. It's like, oh, I don't have anything important to share. I don't have anything that I can say that's going to impact anyone else's life. And that's not true. Everyone has those things that they can talk about that someone's going to be like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that.
We actually talk about that on Truth Talks, and that's sort of the basis of Truth Talks is that we believe everybody does have a story to tell. You may think it's insignificant or unimportant, but you don't know what somebody might be going through anywhere in this world at a moment in time that they can relate back to your story, as significant or insignificant as you believe it might be.
Yeah, I love it. So I don't remember who originally said it, but it's been bastardized a few times. But my favorite version is your shit show of a life becomes somebody else's roadmap. And, I just love that thought process that if you look at all the shit and the dumb things you did and the fucked up things that have happened to you and you've gone through, literally as if you start and have the courage to put it out there, the information, how you got to where you're at now, that is legitimately somebody else's roadmap. So I'm going to say that 100%. Version's now mine. I'm just going to own that version of it. But yeah, but the idea that everybody has a story is as impactful as the whole idea of 8 seconds, because it's true that could be that one phrase, that one statement, that one moment of your life that you're sharing that completely impacts the trajectory of somebody else's life.
I see a new T-shirt for SCN. Your shit show is somebody else's roadmap.
I like it. Brian Price, I need you to get that design, brother.
There you go. Get on it, buddy.
That's awesome. So how does somebody use this whole idea of 8 seconds moving forward in their life? I mean, what are some of the things? We talked a little bit about maybe introductions. That's how they introduce themselves. How else can they use this 8 seconds to, grow their business, level up themselves, or just move forward in general?
Yeah, I think really that's a great question. I think really it's understanding that, if you speak for a minute, there's about 8 or 10 seconds that somebody's actually going to remember, right? And so you need to find that little phrase that you can tell somebody that they're going to walk away from and go, okay, I'm going to remember this person, right? Mm-hmm. And come up with that phrase, especially like in introductions and doing your elevator pitch. And I kind of hate that term, but anyway, that's a whole nother podcast probably. Right. But just think about what could I say that somebody is going to remember and make it profound and make it, something that you sort of rehearse for those moments.
Have you guys seen that TikTok guy? Hold on. There's a TikTok guy that maybe he's a YouTuber as well, but he goes around in a car and sees somebody with their window open, and he's like, "Hey, excuse me, I just want to let you know you're gorgeous today," and then just drives on, right? Yep. He does all these random drive-by, like, positivity things where somebody thinks they're fixing to get gawked at or something, and he's like, saying these most cool things. It's a similar kind of idea, which I think you're saying, Chad.
Oh, yeah. People remember that, just because it's random, right? It's just unexpected. And that's another thing, too, is as you're thinking about what you could say, make it something that somebody isn't going to necessarily expect in the conversation, right? Because that's, I think, what they're going to remember the most. But, and, to your TikTok point, I absolutely refuse to go down the fucking rabbit hole of TikTok ever. My wife and daughter do it, and I'm like, nope, I ain't doing it.
I'm just saying, going to the bathroom is now like a 45-minute experiment.
Don't your damn legs fall asleep?
Oh, of course.
So I think one of the cool things that I learned from starting to be on podcasts, which applies to this whole idea of figuring out what your 8 seconds is that concept of being aware to the reactions that people have when you say things. So one of the cool things when I started being on podcasts, and Donnie taught me this, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And it did. But wait,
Chad, I need you to loop that shit back through when we do this.
Right.
That's going to be, oh, wait. Well, that's a perfect one, right? He was right. He was right. Just over and over. He was right. He was right. Sorry.
But it's, I'd go on the show and I'd start telling my story or answering a question, and the host would be like, oh, wait, let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. And they would gravitate to specific things I said. So I think when you're trying to figure out what your 8 seconds are that can impact people's lives, when you are telling people what you do and then making those introductions, pay attention to where they react. Or if they don't react at all, then it's like, ooh, maybe I don't have the right one. But if they're like, oh, cool, really? Oh, I need to talk about that more. Where are you getting those visual and verbal cues from them that they got it, and
exactly.
it impacted them? They want to know more, because that's where your 8 seconds is going to come from, I think.
Well, it's kind of goes back to, you both have marketing backgrounds. We're
you say marketing, we say sales. So let's make sure we're saying on the same page here.
Right. Well, they can be interchangeable, I suppose. But people, even in sales,
only said by a marketer ever.
Exactly. Which, does anybody actually know what a marketing degree actually is?
It's anyway. A lot of theory.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my theory in marketing is that people are emotional decision makers, right? And so the best marketing when it comes to logo design, branding, and everything else is something that makes an emotional connection. And coming back to the 8 seconds, it's sort of the same thing. That 8 seconds needs to be something that somebody is going to connect with emotionally in the moment, because that's how they're going to remember it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I was even reading, there's a guy I follow on LinkedIn named Richard Vonderbloom, and this guy's a freaking genius on LinkedIn. I love following his stuff. And he always puts out these huge algorithm reports where they do this massive research on the LinkedIn algorithm. And it's not about gaining the system. It's about legitimately using the system to get more seen on LinkedIn. And it's a fascinating research study. He puts that all the time. And one of the things that he said is, the average person scrolls for about 16 posts on LinkedIn, and then they're out, right? They're onto a new platform. So this same concept and he said, your hook, your first phrase in your post needs to be a scroll stopper, which I just love that term, is a scroll stopper. And cool. I think it's the same kind of concept here of this whole 8 seconds is you could say something that quickly impacts somebody else's life. You could write a post and you get 8 seconds for them to read that scroll stopping headline and then make sure it's impactful enough to lean in. I mean, I think this just has a lot of cool applicable applications, if I could say it that way.
It's a big word for you, Don.
I know. Don't ask me to spell all that shit.
Enunciate, brother. That's a great point, actually. And you and I kind of talked about this a while back, and we actually went through and changed some of our old titles of our episodes for Truth Talks to things that not what we thought just was a clever title, but really what people would see, maybe what they were searching for, but what would get their attention. And so that's a great point about using that 8 seconds, if you will, to make a hook, a catchy title that as people are scrolling, they immediately like, oh, I want to learn more about this. Even if it's just sort of vaguely about what the interview is, it's just something that catches their attention that they want more, right?
Absolutely. The last thing I want to ask you, specifically on this is, even in a sales conversation, like if I'm in a direct sales call with somebody, how do I use this 8 seconds to my advantage? Because in my head, there's a series of 8-second moments, if you will. How would you say 8 seconds would apply in a sales conversation?
It could be a sort of a call to action, if you will, or something that, even if it's not a direct, like, hey, you ready to buy? Let's shake hands. Let's close this deal. Maybe it's more of what could you connect with them emotionally on that they're going to remember and then come back when they are ready to buy, if it's not that moment right there. So I don't know that I really have a good answer to that, other than make it authentic and make it something that you can leave them with, that they're going to want to come back and, if nothing else, inquire more about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yep. It does. Thanks for hanging out with us, brother. Really appreciate it. This was a fun, quick conversation. I'm looking forward to doing more of these.
I appreciate the time, fellas. And it's been a lot of fun today, and it's been a lot of fun helping work on growth mode and watching that thing grow into the beast it's going to be.
For sure. For sure. And I think that was a really cool concept to hanging out with Chad and talking about this whole 8-second thing. I think there's just so many applications of it. And I'm really kind of curious of your thoughts on this, Kevin. How would you use this moving forward?
Well, one of the things that popped into my mind that I thought was really cool was this whole concept of 8 seconds, and that really short amount of time, and really trying to define your messaging and what you want to say into those little bursts, as opposed to, I think both of us do this from time to time. You definitely like hearing your voice, and I'm getting better at liking hearing my voice. So we'll talk and we'll try to expound on stuff and try to be profound, when it actually then dilutes out the whole concept we're trying to get across. So I love the concept of how do you say things in 8 seconds.
Well, hold on. I don't ever try and sound profound. I really try and articulate it in a way that I can understand it, and that sometimes may make me go long-winded. But sounding profound is not something I've ever tried to do, because I don't think I will ever sound profound.
But it whatever your reason for talking more, people tend to get trying to more verbose and tend to get wordy, especially when they're nervous. So
that's true. That's true.
I love the concept of how do you drill this down into 8 seconds where people are like, oh, that's awesome. And now you've gotten that soundbite, and you don't have to talk for a whole minute. You now can use that time for other stuff.
Well, and I the other thing that I thought about when he was talking is you can use that 8 seconds to impact somebody else. So I thought, the times where I've honestly been proud of somebody and told them I'm proud of you, and to watch them react to that's been really, really cool to see. And I think, a simple compliment goes a long way, which is that idea that 8 seconds could change somebody's life. So I love the forward aspect of pushing that 8 seconds to somebody else. But I'm big on, especially when someone's trying to tell you what to do, to be more damn concise. Because when most people try and tell you what they do, they go into this elongated diatribe freaking thesis on explaining what they do. And by the time they're done, nobody's got a fucking clue what they actually do. So the more concise they can be.
I love that concept that you brought up with the compliment piece, and impacting someone's life that way. Because you think about, especially in the veteran community, with all the stuff that's going on with veterans, and that the 23 a day is actually closer to 40 a day now that they're getting good numbers, and just reaching out to someone saying, hey, you got this, you're doing awesome, keep kicking ass. You don't know what's going on in their world and the impact that can have. And I love that idea of, hey, you don't have to be super long-winded. It's just a simple statement that can have this huge impact and make someone's day, go from being just totally fucking crappy to freaking just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I'm curious for you guys listening to the show or watching the show, how are you going to use 8 seconds in your life, in your business? What are you actually going to do to implement this in your life? And, I just thought of one more that just popped in my head is, how often, because he said, everybody has a story. How often are we actually looking for the stories of others, and actually wanting to understand their stories? And can we take 8 seconds to ask them, about their journey, about their life, because everybody can teach us something. So I love that concept. So do us a favor, make sure you leave a comment, make sure that you are subscribed to the show, share this out with somebody. And this really helps us spread our word, spread our message, and get more information out there. And keep sending the DMs and the messages. We love getting them. We love getting all the feedback and comments. Appreciate you guys. Love you, mean it. See you. Bye.